everyone. I'm Sara Laczo, your corporate communications leader. And today I'm here with our new managing partner and CEO-elect, Brian Becker. Brian, welcome.
Thanks, Sara. Glad to be here.
So let's jump in. First of all, why don't you tell me how it felt to be named the new managing partner and CEO of the firm?
It was incredibly humbling and obviously exciting. I love this firm, and it's big shoes to fill with Joe, but I'm excited. We have great people, great culture, as all of you know, and I couldn't be more proud to be chosen to lead this firm. So I'm really excited.
Awesome. Well, inquiring minds out there want to know, who is Brian Becker? What are you like outside of work? Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I grew up in what I thought was a large family. We have 5 kids. And my mom and dad both came from very large families. And interesting, none of them went to college, none of the people on both sides of the family. So my mom and dad, from a stewardship standpoint, decided that they wanted all of us to go to college. And it was unique because my friends, when they went from high school to college, it was a choice. For me, it was like probably you going from middle school to high school. It was something that you had to do, and that's what it felt like in my family. And so I'm always thankful to my parents. All 5 of us graduated from college and wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them showing stewardship. Other than that, I love sports. I loved basketball especially, but I'm vertically challenged, so that wasn't going to be a career for me. But love all kinds of sports and was a very close family. And so that's me.
Awesome. Well, what about you today? Family?
I have a wife, Sherry. I have one daughter, Allie, who just turned 29.
Wow.
And we're in between pets. I have to mention Lexi, who is our 16-year-old Yorkie that just passed away this spring, and she's a member of the family. So we're finally at the point of looking to bring in our next member of the family, and guess what? It'll be a 3.5-pound Yorkie when it happens.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm sorry for your loss. It's always hard losing a pet after so long. All right, so let's pivot to your career. Tell us a little bit how you got started here at RSM and what perpetuated the change from audit to consulting.
Sure. It's interesting. I started at University of Northern Iowa, which was known as a great accounting school, one of the top ones. And I started as a history teacher, and I remember my advisor told me, "You're probably not going to make it as a history teacher just because there's so many teachers." And he mentioned accounting, and so I went into accounting because it was such a great school for that. And when I did that, I also worked full-time at a Radio Shack. And for those of you that don't know, Radio Shack back then was the computer store. And that's where I got my technology background. And so graduated, started at McGladrey at the time, and went to audit. And it was great. It really taught me a lot about business. You know, as I learned how businesses operate and working with clients. And luckily, there was an opportunity to move to consulting, and I had that technical background from when I worked at Radio Shack, and so I started into technology consulting. But I think one of the keys of why I was successful, though, was that background in audit, where I learned about the clients, about their industries, and then I could weave that into how I would use technology to solve problems.
That's great. You know, people say that audit is such a great training ground to really learn and then move on to anything you want to do in business or to stay as an auditor if that's your passion. So
Absolutely.
That's a really cool story. Thanks,
Yeah.
Brian. All right. So nobody ever gets to where they are by themselves. So why don't you talk to our friends about some of the mentors and coaches who've helped you along the way?
Yeah, you know, it probably started with John Hickson, who's a former partner. When I was in audit, and in the summer, I was doing technology for clients, non-busy season work. And I loved it. And I remember talking to John Hickson, and he's the one that said, "Why don't you look at doing consulting and starting it from scratch?" And that's when, I had to make a decision, but he was supportive. He was entrepreneurial, and he knew it was good for our clients because our clients told us how much they liked it. So he gave me the courage to do that. And then another one was Gordon Oppelin, who I was at a crossroads in my career, and I remembered had an offer for more money, and I was calculating how long it would take to get to that type of salary at RSM. And he said something very important to me. He said, "You will always have the opportunity to take that job at a client, but you only have one opportunity to be an owner." And I had my wife with me at the time, and it made me think, you're right. This is one chance to be an owner. And so I took the chance, and I quickly found out what a great decision, because I would not be doing what I love to do had I taken that avenue at the time.
Yeah, I think that's so important for people to hear, is just the benefits and the value of ownership, and that it's really important to consider what that's going to be like and talk to people who can tell you about it, right?
And our culture, Sarah, because I love the people that work here. And there's so many times when somebody leaves and they come back, we call them boomerangs, as you know, and they'll talk about our culture, and the people here are just different. And I really valued that too, because we had developed a team, and I wanted to stay with that team, and our culture is special. So that was the other thing that was a big part of me staying here.
That's awesome. And I completely agree on the special culture. That's what's kept me here for almost 15 years. All right. So, Brian, I've heard you share a really interesting experience about diversity and inclusion and how that shaped how you look at diversity. So would you share that story for everybody?
Sure. I think you're talking when I was in college.
Yes.
I took a cultural studies class, and one of the assignments was I had to go to a black church. It was a Baptist church, I believe. And I also had to go to a diner. And it was one of the most unique experiences of my life, because I remember walking into that church, and I was the only white person in that church. And it struck me at that moment how it must feel for others when they walk into a room and people are different than you are. And I hadn't experienced it to that degree. And a funny story is during the church service, they were a lot more excited than I usually am in my church. And I remember the pastor called me out and said, "I bet you when you go to football games and your team scores a touchdown, that you're a lot more excited and cheering than you are in church cheering here." And you know what? He was right. But he called me out in front of everybody in church, and so everybody focused in on me. And then I went to the diner afterwards. Again, the only white person in the diner, and ordered a meal and had a great interaction with the chef. But it really taught me what it feels like to be different in that room, and what it must feel like for others if they go somewhere or any place where their background is different than everybody else you're with. I've never forgotten that moment.
That's great. It sounds like it was an amazing way to build empathy, and probably makes you much more inclined to include the person in the room who may be feeling a little bit out of place.
Absolutely. And it really taught me how I was nervous when I noticed my background was different. The people with me were different than I was. So I can understand how people feel, and I can really have empathy for how they feel in those circumstances. And it really taught me a lot.
Absolutely, I'm sure. Brian, what's been your biggest inspiration in life?
It would be my wife, Sherry, Sara. I have a daughter that contracted illness, and it's not curable, so she has a chronic illness. And my wife gave up her career so I could pursue mine, and she was a great teacher, and she loved teaching, and now she takes care of my daughter. And so my daughter, of course, is an inspiration because of who she is to a lot of people in her support groups and what she's gone through. But it'd be my wife, Sherry, because I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for her sacrifice.
That's amazing. I've met Sherry, and she's just such a wonderful, big-hearted person. All right, well, let's now move on to RSM. What is your vision for the firm, and how do you think we're going to evolve during the next several years?
I just think we are in such a unique position. You know, I think the future is obviously going to be about the digital transformation and everything digital. And we have such a strong culture, and we are leading the middle market. Our vision, strategy, and purpose is right on. And so as I look to the future, it's about how do we create these innovative solutions that align strategy, people, process, and technology. Because it's not just about technology, Sara. We have to bring everything together, the strategy, the people, the process. And if we do that right, we will help our clients to transform their business while we're transforming our own. And I think we're just at the beginning of a next great run where we'll become the leading provider of all services to the middle market. And we'll provide value, real value that helps them in all aspects of their business. So I'm excited for the future.
I'm excited too. And when it comes to digital transformation, you have just a little bit of experience in that arena, huh?
Yes. You know, I've done that for clients when I started. Obviously have done it for consulting. And really we've had to reinvent ourselves numerous times in consulting and have that agility that we need. And so that's where we're at as a firm. And I know with our people, our culture, that we're well fit to have that agility, to embrace this transformation, and again, continue to separate us from our competitors.
Awesome. All right, well, one last question, then we'll get you off the hot seat. What do you want your legacy to be as CEO?
Wow, that's a big question. I think, Sara, if people can say that I live the values and I live the 5 C's, and I demonstrated that to everybody, and that all had the opportunity to achieve what they wanted at this firm, that's what I'd want them to say, that everyone had the opportunity to achieve whatever they wanted to achieve, and we maintained our culture, and that I personally demonstrated and lived our values and the 5 C's.
Wow, what a fantastic legacy indeed. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in today. I'm Sara Weber-Laczo with Brian Becker, our managing partner and CEO-elect. Have a great day.
See you, everyone.